Captain Kim Dae-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderstrike, watching the stars through the main view screen. The massive warship moved slowly through space near the edge of the solar system. Today was supposed to be a simple training exercise, nothing more. The Thunderstrike was humanity's newest heavy cruiser. Unlike the sleek ships other alien races built, it looked like a flying fortress made of thick metal plates and heavy weapons. The ship was built to take damage and keep fighting. Every human warship was designed this way because humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. "Captain, we're detecting something strange," said Lieutenant Park Soo-jin from her station. She was the ship's tactical officer, responsible for weapons and defense systems. Her voice was calm but alert. Kim walked over to her station. "What do you see?" "3 unknown ships approaching from deep space. They're not human vessels, sir. The design is completely different from anything in our database." Commander Lee Woo-sung, the chief engineer, looked up from his console. "I'm reading some very unusual energy signatures from those ships. Their technology is definitely not human." Communications Officer Choi Hee-won tried to make contact with the unknown vessels. She sent standard greeting messages on all frequencies but received no response. "They're ignoring our communications, Captain. Either they can't understand us or they don't want to talk." Kim studied the tactical display showing the 3 alien ships. They were beautiful in a strange way, with smooth curves and what looked like crystal formations growing from their hulls. They moved through space like living things rather than machines. "How far away are they?" Kim asked. 200,000 kilometers and closing, Park replied. "They're maintaining a steady approach course directly toward us." Dr. Yoon Na-young, the ship's chief medical officer, joined them on the bridge. She often came up during unusual situations to observe and learn. "Captain, if these are first contact situations, we should follow diplomatic protocols." Kim nodded but kept watching the alien ships. Something about their approach pattern bothered him. They weren't coming straight toward the Thunderstrike. Instead, they were spreading out, moving to surround the human vessel. "That's not a diplomatic formation," Kim said quietly. "That's a hunting pattern." Inside the lead alien ship, High Stratarch Valaner studied the primitive human vessel with interest. The Veltar Empire had been testing younger species for thousands of years. It was a simple process. Approach a new civilization, test their technology and fighting ability, then decide their fate. Species that showed promise were invited to join the galactic community as junior members. Those that failed the test were either conquered or destroyed. It was efficient and had worked perfectly for centuries. "Look at that crude design," said Sub-Commander Thalanis, the fleet's science officer. "Thick metal armor, primitive weapon systems, inefficient energy patterns. This species is barely beyond chemical rockets," Valinor agreed. The human ship looked like something built by children playing with metal scraps. Compared to the elegant Veltar vessels with their organic curves and quantum energy systems, it was laughably primitive. "Begin the standard test protocol," Valinor ordered. "Low-power energy beam to their hull. We need to see how they respond to a show of force." Back on the Thunderstrike, alarms started sounding as the alien ships moved into attack positions. "Captain, they're powering up weapons," Park reported. "Energy readings are increasing across all 3 vessels." Kim felt a familiar feeling in his stomach. He had been in combat before, and he recognized the signs of an impending attack. "These aliens weren't here for peaceful contact. All hands battle stations," Kim announced over the ship's communication system. "This is not a drill. Unknown vessels are taking aggressive positions." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency. Park began targeting the alien ships with the Thunderstrike's weapons. Lee rerouted power to defensive systems and weapons. Choi continued trying to establish communications while also monitoring enemy transmissions. "Sir, I'm detecting an energy buildup in their lead ship," Park said. "They're preparing to fire." "At us?" Kim asked. "Yes, sir. Targeting our forward hull section." Kim made a decision that would change everything. Instead of running or hiding, he chose to stand and fight. "Charge all weapons. Target their lead vessel. If they want to test us, let's give them a proper demonstration." The alien energy beam struck the Thunderstrike's thick armor plating. The ship shook slightly, but the damage was minimal. Human ships were built to survive much worse attacks. "Damage report," Kim called out. "Minor scoring on the forward armor," Lee reported. "No penetration." "Systems are all green," Kim smiled grimly. "Their turn is over. Now it's ours." "Park, fire a warning shot. Put it close enough to get their attention, but don't hit them yet." The Thunderstrike's main gun was a magnetic rail system that fired tungsten projectiles at incredible speeds. When Park pulled the trigger, a metal slug the size of a small car shot out at 15% the speed of light. The projectile passed within meters of the lead alien ship, creating a brilliant flash as it ionized space particles. The aliens had never seen anything like it. Inside the Veltar command ship, chaos erupted. What was that? Velinor demanded. A kinetic projectile moving at relativistic speeds. Thelanis replied, his voice shaking. The energy requirements should be impossible for a ship that size. It was a warning shot, another officer reported. They deliberately missed us. Velinor stared at the tactical display. No species had ever responded to a Veltar test with such precision and power. Most civilizations either surrendered immediately or fired wildly in panic. Increase our attack power, he ordered. This species is more interesting than we thought. On the Thunderstrike, Kim watched the alien ships prepare for a more serious attack. Captain, they're not backing down, Park observed. Energy readings are increasing to maximum levels. Good, Kim replied. I was hoping they'd escalate. It's been a while since we had a proper test of our systems. Dr. Yoon looked at the captain with concern. Sir, shouldn't we try to avoid a fight? These could be peaceful explorers. Kim pointed at the tactical display showing the alien ship's positions. Doctor, peaceful explorers don't surround their targets and open fire. These aliens came here to test our capabilities. They want to see what humans can do in a fight. He turned to face his bridge crew. Well, let's show them what humans do best. We've been fighting each other for our entire history. Time to show these aliens what we learned. The 3 Veltar ships began their coordinated attack, confident that their advanced energy weapons would quickly disable the primitive human vessel. They had no idea that they were about to face something the galaxy had never seen before. Humans in a real fight. The 3 Veltar ships opened fire with their energy weapons, sending bright beams of concentrated power toward the Thunderstrike. High Stratarch Velinor watched confidently as the weapons, that had conquered dozens of worlds, struck the primitive human vessel. The energy beams hit the Thunderstrike's thick armor and spread across its surface like water hitting a rock. The ship's special ablative plating was designed specifically to handle energy weapons. It absorbed the heat and dispersed it harmlessly into space. Damage report, Captain Kim called out calmly. Commander Lee checked his engineering displays and almost smiled. No damage, sir. Their energy weapons are actually helping our armor work better. The heat is being absorbed and redirected exactly as designed. Dr. Yoon, monitoring the ship's internal systems, added with dry humor, the energy from their weapons is warming our coffee in the galley. No injuries reported, Kim nodded. Human engineers had spent decades studying energy weapons after first encountering them in alien technology salvage. Every human warship was built to counter them. On the Veltar command ship, Sub-Commander Thelanis stared at his readings in disbelief. High Stratarch, our weapons are having no effect. Their armor is specifically designed to counter energy attacks. Impossible, Velinor replied. No primitive species should have that level of defensive technology. Sir, I don't think they're as primitive as we assumed, Thelanis said quietly. Velinor studied the human ship more carefully. It still looked crude and bulky compared to Veltar designs, but it was obviously more advanced than they had first thought. Increase power to maximum, he ordered. All ships focus fire on their engine section. We'll disable them and force a surrender. The Veltar ships intensified their attack, pouring more energy into their weapons than they had ever used before. The space around the Thunderstrike lit up with brilliant energy beams, but the human ship continued moving normally, apparently unaffected by the massive energy bombardment. Lieutenant Park Soo-jin studied her tactical displays while the alien weapons struck their ship harmlessly. Captain, I've analyzed their attack patterns. Their weapons are powerful but predictable. They're following standard military doctrine. Meaning? Kim asked. They fight like civilized people, sir. Coordinated attacks, efficient energy usage, minimal waste. They're trying to disable us, not destroy us. Kim understood immediately. They're still treating this as a test, not a real battle. They don't want to kill us, just defeat us. He walked to the center of the bridge, watching the alien ships continue their futile attacks. That's their first mistake. In a real fight, you don't hold back. Orders, sir? Park asked. Show them what human weapons can do, Kim replied. Target their lead ship's engine section. Full power kinetic round. The Thunderstrike's main railgun charged to full power. Unlike the aliens' elegant energy weapons, Human kinetic weapons were simple and brutal. They fired solid chunks of metal at incredible speeds. No energy shields could stop them, and no armor could fully absorb their impact. Park locked onto the lead Veltar ship and fired. The tungsten projectile shot across space faster than the aliens could track. It struck the Veltar ship's engine section with the force of a nuclear explosion. The beautiful organic hull cracked and split, atmosphere venting into space through multiple holes. Inside the damaged ship, alarms screamed as systems failed throughout the vessel. Felanor was thrown from his command chair as the ship shook violently. "Report!" he shouted over the noise. "Engine section destroyed," an officer replied. "Hull breaches on multiple decks." "We're losing atmosphere fast, and how is that possible?" Felanor demanded. "Their weapons should not be able to penetrate our defenses." Thelanis was frantically analyzing the attack. "Sir, they're using kinetic weapons, not energy. Solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. The kinetic energy transfer is enormous. Why would anyone use such primitive weapons?" Felanor asked. "Because they work," Thelanis replied grimly. "Energy can be deflected or absorbed. Solid matter moving that fast cannot be stopped." On the Thunderstrike, Kim watched the alien ship struggle with its damage. 1 down, 2 to go. "Park, target the second ship." "Lee, how are our weapon systems?" "All weapons fully charged and ready, Captain," Lee reported. "We've used less than 10% of our total ammunition." "Good. These aliens want to test our capabilities. Let's give them a complete demonstration." The second Veltar ship, commanded by Sub-Stratarch Colvin, tried to change tactics. Instead of standing still and exchanging fire, it began moving in evasive patterns while maintaining its attack. But Lieutenant Park had been trained in human military academies where warfare was studied as both science and art. She predicted the alien ship's movement pattern after watching it for only 30 seconds. "Predictable evasion pattern," she reported to Kim. "They're following their training manual exactly." "Then let's teach them why. Flexibility wins battles," Kim replied. "Fire when ready." Park waited until the alien ship moved into the exact position she had calculated, then fired 3 kinetic rounds in rapid succession. The tungsten projectiles formed a triangle pattern that gave the alien ship no escape route. All 3 rounds struck the second Veltar ship within seconds of each other. The elegant vessel's hull couldn't handle that much kinetic energy at once. It cracked like an egg, secondary explosions rippling through its internal systems. Sub-Stratarch Colvin and his crew barely had time to activate emergency systems before their ship was completely disabled. The third Veltar ship, seeing 2 of its companions destroyed or disabled in minutes, tried to retreat, but Captain Kim had studied their approach pattern carefully. "They're trying to run," Park observed. "Of course they are," Kim replied, "but they made another mistake. They approached us using standard fleet formation. I know exactly which direction they'll retreat." He turned to Communications Officer Choi. "Send them a message on all frequencies. Tell them that retreat is not acceptable. They came here to test us, so we're going to complete the test." Choi transmitted the message, and the alien response came back immediately. It was in their own language, but the ship's translation systems provided a clear meaning: surrender request and plea for mercy. Dr. Yoon looked concerned. "Captain, they're trying to surrender. Shouldn't we accept?" Kim shook his head. "Doctor, they didn't come here to surrender. They came here to judge humanity's capabilities and decide our fate. I'm not letting them leave until they understand exactly what humans are capable of." He looked at the tactical display showing the fleeing alien ship. "Park, disable their engines but keep them alive. I want survivors to tell their people what happened here." "Understood, sir." The Thunderstrike's weapons locked onto the retreating vessel's engine section. 1 precisely aimed kinetic round destroyed the alien ship's propulsion system without breaching the crew compartments. All 3 Veltar ships were now disabled and drifting in space. High Stratarch Velanor, struggling with his ship's failing life support, finally understood what they had encountered. This wasn't a primitive species with lucky technology. These humans had turned warfare into a science. "Sub-Commander," he called to Thelanis, "analyze their attack patterns." "How did they defeat us so easily?" Thelanis studied the tactical data with growing horror. "Sir, they weren't fighting to win. They were fighting to demonstrate their capabilities. Every shot was precisely calculated to cause maximum damage while keeping us alive." "What does that mean?" It means they could have destroyed us completely in the first 30 seconds if they wanted to. Instead, they chose to show us exactly how outmatched we are. Velanor stared at the human ship, which was now approaching his disabled vessel. For the first time in his long military career, he felt true fear. The battle was over in 15 minutes, but those 15 minutes changed everything the Veltar thought they knew about warfare. Captain Kim stood on the bridge of the Thunderstrike, watching the 3 disabled alien ships floating helplessly in space. His crew worked efficiently at their stations, analyzing the enemy vessels and preparing boarding teams. "Damage assessment complete, sir," Commander Lee reported. "Hull integrity at 98%. Minor heat dispersion from their energy weapons, but all systems are functioning normally." "Casualties?" Kim asked. "None, sir," Dr. Yoon replied. The crew barely felt the battle. Most people didn't even realize we were under attack until it was over. Kim nodded. That was exactly what he expected. The Thunderstrike had been designed by humans who understood real warfare. It could survive much worse than what the aliens had thrown at them. Lieutenant Park studied her tactical analysis of the battle. "Captain, I've completed my assessment of enemy capabilities. Their weapons are advanced but inefficient. Their tactics are predictable. Their ship designs prioritize beauty over functionality." "Explain," Kim said. "They fight like people who have never faced a real threat," Park replied. "Everything they do follows rules and procedures. They expect their enemies to do the same." Communications Officer Choi looked up from her station. "Sir, I've been analyzing their communication channels during the battle. They have no tactical flexibility protocols, no backup plans, no emergency procedures for unexpected situations." Dr. Yoon added her own observation. "I've been studying their ship designs from our scans. Captain, their vessels have single points of failure throughout their systems. One critical hit to the right location and the entire ship shuts down." Kim walked to the main view screen studying the alien vessels. "They're not warriors," he said quietly. "They're administrators. They've spent so long being the dominant power that they forgot what real fighting looks like." Inside the lead Veltar ship, High Stratarch Velanor struggled with systems that were failing one by one. His beautiful organic ship, which had seemed so advanced minutes before, now felt fragile and inadequate. Sub-Commander Thelanis worked frantically to restore basic life support. "Sir, our quantum field generators are offline. Artificial gravity is failing. We're losing atmosphere from 17 different hull breaches." "How long until complete system failure?" Velanor asked. 4 hours, maybe less," Thelanis replied. "Sir, we need to request assistance from the human vessel." The idea of asking for help from the primitive species they had come to test was humiliating, but Velanor had no choice. His crew was dying, and their ship was falling apart around them. "Send a distress signal," he ordered. "Ask for medical assistance." On the Thunderstrike, Choi received the alien distress call. "Captain, they're requesting help. Their ships are failing and they have casualties." Kim considered this for a moment. "Dr. Yoon, prepare medical teams for boarding operations. Lee, get engineering teams ready to help with their life support." "Sir?" Park looked surprised. "We're going to help them after they attacked us?" "They came here to test us," Kim replied. "Part of that test is seeing what kind of people we are. Besides, I want them alive. Dead aliens can't carry messages back to their government." Dr. Yoon gathered her medical teams and prepared for alien contact. "Captain, we have no idea what their biology is like. I'll need time to study them before I can provide proper medical care." "Do your best, Doctor, but keep them alive. I have questions for their commander." The boarding operations began an hour later. Human teams in protective suits entered the damaged alien ships, bringing emergency life support equipment and medical supplies. What they found shocked them. The Veltar were tall, elegant beings with crystalline features and graceful movements. Their technology was beautiful but delicate, like works of art rather than military equipment. Dr. Yoon examined injured Veltar crew members and made disturbing discoveries. "Captain, these beings are physically fragile. Their bones break easily. Their organs have no redundancy. If one system fails, they die." Commander Lee's engineering teams found similar problems with the alien ships. "Sir, their technology is incredibly advanced but completely impractical for combat. Every system is connected to every other system. Damage one component and half the ship stops working." Lieutenant Park analyzed the alien weapons and tactical systems. "Captain, they have no concept of irregular warfare. Their computers can't handle unexpected tactics. They literally don't know how to fight enemies who don't follow established rules. But the most important discovery came from Communications Officer Choi, who had been studying Veltar databases with their translation systems. "Sir, I've found something disturbing," she reported. "According to their records, the Veltar Empire has been testing younger species for thousands of years. Species that fail their tests are conquered or destroyed." Kim felt cold anger growing in his chest. "How many species have they destroyed?" "Dozens, sir. Maybe hundreds. They call it galactic management. They decide which species are allowed to survive and which are eliminated." The pieces fell into place for Kim. These aliens hadn't come to Earth for peaceful contact. They had come to judge humanity and decide whether the human race deserved to exist. "Get me a communication link with their commander," Kim ordered. Minutes later, High Stratarch Velanor appeared on the main screen. The alien leader looked tired and defeated, his crystalline features dull with exhaustion. "I am Captain Kim Dae-ho of the UES Thunderstrike," Kim said formally. "You came to our system to test our capabilities." "I believe the test is complete." "Yes," Velanor replied weakly. "Your species has passed our evaluation. We will recommend that humanity be granted junior membership in the galactic community." Kim's expression didn't change, but everyone on the bridge could feel his anger. "Junior membership? You came here to decide if my species deserves to exist, and now you're offering us junior membership?" Velanor looked confused. That is how the process works. Young species are evaluated and— "No," Kim interrupted. "That's how the process used to work. Today you learned something new. You learned what happens when you test a species that doesn't need your permission to exist." The alien commander stared at Kim through the communication link, beginning to understand the true scope of his mistake. "Your ships will be repaired," Kim continued. "Your crews will receive medical care. You will return to your empire with a complete report of this encounter. But understand this clearly. Humanity doesn't want junior membership in your galactic community. We don't need your protection or your guidance." Kim leaned forward, his voice becoming harder. "You came here as judges. You're leaving as witnesses. You're going to tell your empire exactly what happened when they tested Earth's warship. You're going to explain that humans don't fight civilized wars." What are you?" Velanor whispered. "We're the species that survived 4 billion years of evolution by never giving up," Kim replied. "We're the people who turned warfare into an art form. We're humans, and we don't need anyone's permission to exist." The communication ended, leaving Velanor staring at a blank screen, finally understanding the true horror of what his empire had awakened. High Stratarch Velanor sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the tactical displays that showed the complete destruction of his fleet's combat effectiveness. 3 ships that had conquered entire star systems had been defeated by a single human vessel in 15 minutes. Around him, his crew worked desperately to restore basic systems while human repair teams moved through their ship. The humans were efficient and professional, but Velanor could see something in their eyes that chilled him. They weren't surprised by their victory. They had expected to win. "Sir," Sub-Commander Thelanis approached with a data tablet. "I've completed analysis of the human attack patterns. The results are disturbing." "Show me," Velanor ordered. Thelanis activated a holographic display showing the battle from the Veltar perspective. "They weren't fighting to destroy us, sir. They were conducting a scientific experiment. Every shot was calculated to gather maximum information about our capabilities while demonstrating their own." The display showed the precise targeting of each human attack. Every kinetic round had been aimed to disable specific systems without destroying the ships completely. "They could have killed us all in the first minute," Thelanis continued. "Instead, they chose to study us while we fought. They learned everything about our technology, our tactics, and our weaknesses." Velanor felt a chill of fear. "Are you saying they were testing us while we thought we were testing them?" "Yes, sir, and we failed their test completely." On the Thunderstrike, Captain Kim received reports from all the boarding teams. The information they gathered painted a clear picture of the Veltar Empire and its methods. Dr. Yoon returned from treating alien casualties with disturbing news. "Captain, I've learned a lot about their species during treatment. They've never evolved to handle serious injuries. Their medical technology is advanced but focuses on preventing problems, not fixing damage." "What does that tell us?" Kim asked. "It tells us they've never fought a real war," Dr. Yoon replied. Their entire civilization has developed without experiencing true violence. They're administrators, not warriors. Commander Lee's engineering teams provided equally revealing information. Sir, their ship designs are completely impractical for combat. Beautiful, efficient, but one solid hit to any major system and the whole vessel becomes useless. Lieutenant Park had been analyzing Veltar tactical databases. Captain, they have detailed records of hundreds of species they've tested over the centuries. Every single test followed the same pattern: overwhelming force, quick surrender, and integration into their empire. Until today, Kim observed. Yes, sir. We're the first species to fight back effectively. According to their records, no one has ever lasted more than a few minutes against a Veltar test fleet. Communications Officer Choi discovered the most important intelligence. Sir, I've accessed their communication logs. They've been sending regular reports to their high command throughout this encounter. What kind of reports? Kim asked. Initially, standard evaluation data about primitive human technology, Choi replied. But the tone changed quickly. Their last transmission before we disabled them was a priority alert requesting immediate reinforcement and reclassification of humanity as a major threat. Kim felt a cold satisfaction. So their government knows what happened here. Yes, sir. But there's more. I've been monitoring their emergency frequencies. They've been trying to call for help since the battle ended. And I've been jamming their communications, Choi said with a slight smile. They can't send or receive messages. As far as their empire knows, this test fleet has completely disappeared. Kim nodded approvingly. Good work. How long can you maintain the jamming? Indefinitely, sir. Their communication technology is sophisticated but predictable. Once I understood their protocols, blocking them became simple. Dr. Yoon looked concerned. Captain, are we taking prisoners of war? What's our legal status here? Kim considered the question carefully. Doctor, they came to our space without invitation, attacked our ship, and intended to judge whether humanity deserves to exist. Legally, they're invaders. Practically, they're witnesses. Witnesses to what? Dr. Yoon asked. To what happens when you test a species that doesn't accept being tested, Kim replied. Hours passed as human teams continued working on the alien ships. But Captain Kim had a larger plan developing in his mind. These aliens represented a galactic empire that had destroyed countless species. They needed to understand that humanity would not be another victim. Park, Kim called to his tactical officer. How many ships like the Thunderstrike does Earth have? Currently in service? 43 heavy cruisers of our class, sir, plus hundreds of smaller vessels and 21 battleships. And they're all built to the same standards? Yes, sir. Every human warship is designed to counter energy weapons and utilize kinetic projectiles. Standard doctrine across the entire fleet. Kim turned to Commander Lee. How long would it take to repair the alien ships enough for space travel? With our current resources, maybe 6 hours for basic life support and propulsion. Why? Because I want them to return home, Kim said, but not empty-handed. He activated the ship's internal communication system. All department heads report to the bridge immediately. We're going to send our guests home with a complete education about human capabilities. When his senior staff assembled, Kim outlined his plan. These aliens came here to test us and decide our fate. They're going home with a detailed report, but not the kind they expected to write. Dr. Yoon looked puzzled. What kind of report? A technical analysis of human military capabilities, Kim replied. I want them to understand exactly what they're dealing with. Lieutenant Park smiled grimly. You want to scare them? I want to educate them, Kim corrected. Fear is just a byproduct of education. Over the next several hours, human teams systematically documented every aspect of Veltar technology while providing the aliens with detailed specifications of human military capabilities. The aliens received technical manuals for human weapon systems, tactical doctrine files, and strategic analysis of human defensive capabilities. By the time they were ready to leave, they knew more about human military technology than some human officers. But the most terrifying part was what the humans didn't show them. Velanor realized that everything he had seen was just one ship with a standard crew. The humans had demonstrated their capabilities without revealing their full strength. As the alien ships prepared to depart, Captain Kim opened a final communication channel with High Stratarch Velanor. Your ships have been repaired and your crews treated, Kim said formally. You're free to return to your empire with your report. What should I tell them? Velanor asked weakly. Tell them the truth, Kim replied. Tell them that humanity doesn't need their permission to exist. Tell them that humans don't fight civilized wars. And tell them that the next time they send ships to test another species, they should remember what happened when they tested us. The alien ships departed several hours later, carrying the most terrifying intelligence report in the history of the Veltar Empire. They had come to judge humanity, and instead learned that they themselves had been judged and found wanting. Captain Kim watched them disappear into hyperspace, knowing that the galaxy was about to learn something new about the species from Earth. 3 weeks after the battle, High Stratarch Velanor stood before the Veltar High Council on the Empire's capital world. The massive chamber was filled with the most powerful beings in the galaxy, their crystalline forms glowing with inner light as they waited to hear his report. Velanor's own light had dimmed significantly since his encounter with the humans. The elegant Veltar leader looked tired and old as he prepared to deliver the most important intelligence briefing in Imperial history. "Honored counselors," he began, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "I have returned from the Sol system with a complete assessment of the species known as humans. I must begin with an urgent recommendation. Immediately reclassify this species from primitive test subjects to extinction-level threat." Murmurs of surprise rippled through the council chamber. Never before had a test fleet commander returned with such a dramatic recommendation. High Counselor Zethara, eldest of the council members, spoke first. "Stratarch Velanor, your preliminary reports indicated a technologically primitive species with crude weapons and inefficient ship designs. How can they possibly represent an extinction-level threat?" Velanor activated a holographic display showing the battle with the Thunderstrike. "Honored Counselor, they destroyed 3 Imperial vessels in 15 minutes using weapons we initially dismissed as primitive. But their weapons are not primitive. They are perfectly designed for maximum effectiveness." The hologram showed the human kinetic rounds striking Veltar ships with devastating precision. Council members watched in stunned silence as their most advanced vessels crumpled under the human attack. "How is this possible?" asked Counselor Mordon. "Our ships have conquered hundreds of worlds." "Because we have never fought a species like this," Velanor replied. "Honored counselors, the humans don't fight civilized wars. They fight to win at any cost." Subcommander Thelanis, who had accompanied Velanor to provide technical analysis, stepped forward. "Counselors, I have analyzed human technology extensively. Their weapons appear crude because they prioritize function over form. Every system is designed for reliability under extreme conditions. But more importantly," Thelanis continued, "their tactics are completely unpredictable. They don't follow established military doctrine. They adapt and improvise during combat in ways our systems cannot counter." High Counselor Zethara studied the tactical displays with growing concern. "What exactly did this human ship do that was so unusual?" Velanor's response sent chills through the chamber. "They treated our test as an opportunity to study us. While we were fighting for our lives, they were conducting scientific analysis of our capabilities. They learned everything about us while revealing only a fraction of their own strength." He activated another display, showing the technical specifications the humans had provided. Before allowing us to leave, they gave us complete documentation of their military capabilities. They wanted us to understand exactly what we had encountered. The council members studied the human technical manuals with growing horror. The weapon systems were brutal in their efficiency. The ship designs prioritized survival and continued fighting capability over all other concerns. "This is impossible," whispered Counselor Velthara. "No species develops this level of military sophistication without centuries of constant warfare." "Exactly," Velanor replied. "The humans have been fighting each other for their entire evolutionary history. They have turned warfare into both science and art. Every human ship, every weapon, every tactic has been refined through constant conflict." Thelanis provided additional context. "Counselors, according to their historical databases, humans have fought over 50,000 wars in their recorded history. They've never known true peace. War isn't something they do, it's what they are." The implications struck the council like physical blows. The Veltar Empire had maintained peace through overwhelming technological superiority. They had never encountered a species that was inherently more advanced at warfare than they were. High Counselor Zethara asked the question everyone was thinking. "How many ships do they have?" Velanor consulted his data. "Their star system contains 43 heavy cruisers similar to the one that defeated us. plus hundreds of smaller vessels and 21 battleships. But counselors, that's just their home defense fleet. What do you mean? Counselor Mordan demanded. They have colonies throughout their local star cluster, Velaner replied. Each colony has its own defensive fleet. Conservative estimates suggest they have over 2,000 combat vessels. 2,000 ships like the one that destroyed your fleet? Zethara's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, honored counselor, and possibly worse. The vessel we encountered was conducting a training exercise. It wasn't even their most advanced ship. The council chamber fell silent as the full implications became clear. The Veltar Empire, which had dominated the galaxy for 3 millennia, had encountered something beyond their understanding. A species that was inherently better at warfare. Counselor Velthara finally spoke. What do you recommend, Stratarch? Velanor's response was immediate and definitive. Complete avoidance of human space. We should establish an exclusion zone around their territory and hope they remain content with their current borders. You're suggesting we retreat from a single species? Morden asked incredulously. I'm suggesting we avoid extinction, Velanor replied firmly. Counselors, if the humans decide we are a threat to their survival, I do not believe any force in the galaxy can stop them. He activated one final display, showing the human captain's message. Their commander, Kim Daeho, made their position clear. Humanity doesn't want junior membership in our galactic community. They don't need our protection or our guidance. They exist by their own will and answer to no authority but themselves. High Counselor Zethara contemplated this information for long minutes. And if we ignore them? What if we simply pretend this encounter never happened? Then we risk them deciding we're a threat, Velaner replied. And based on what I observed, humans eliminate threats permanently. The vote was unanimous. The Veltar High Council officially reclassified humanity as an extinction-level threat and established a permanent exclusion zone around human space. No Imperial vessels would approach the Sol system or any human colony. Meanwhile, billions of light-years away, Captain Kim Daeho completed his mission report aboard the Thunderstrike. His entry was brief and routine. Training exercise 2387 Delta concluded successfully. Brief contact with unknown alien vessels resulted in peaceful resolution. No casualties. Enemy forces withdrew after demonstration of defensive capabilities. Recommend continued vigilance, but do not consider them a significant threat to Earth or her colonies. What Kim didn't mention in his official report was that his brief contact had just established humanity as the most feared species in the galaxy. The Veltar Empire, masters of 3,000 worlds, would spend the next centuries living in terror of the day humans might decide to leave their territory. The aliens had come to test Earth's warship. Instead, they learned that some species are not meant to be tested. They learned that humanity had been forged in the crucible of constant warfare and emerged as something the galaxy had never seen. A species that treated peace as merely preparation for the next war. They had tested humanity and learned terror too late to save themselves from the knowledge of what they had awakened. The humans remained in their territory, content for now to defend what was theirs. But across the galaxy, every civilization that heard the Veltar report understood the same truth. Humanity was not a species to be tested, challenged, or threatened. They were a species to be avoided at all costs.